Jen from Geigley Knits, and I'm back again after a little hiatus. I just had a weekend of knitting fun in Kansas City at another crank-in with my Dean & Bean sock knitting machine. I love this thing. And I love the yellow. Dean & Bean hosted a crank-in just for the Dean & Bean machines in Kansas City over the weekend, and I was so excited to go. I was so excited it was also within driving distance, which is really nice, to go and learn more about my sock knitting machine. And if you remember, I went to my first crank-in at the end of February, so not long ago. I got this out for the first time and took it to another local crank-in. And that crank-in was not machine specific. You could have any kind of machine. There was vintage knitting machines, Erlbacher, Dean & Bean, all different kinds of machines. It could be just anything, and it was just kind of a weekend to crank in, and they had some little like demonstrations and stuff. But this was a little bit different. This was specific to Dean & Bean machines, which was really nice, and the whole family was there. So Dean & Bean is run by two sisters, and like their spouse and children, and like the whole family is all involved. So I got to meet like the whole family of Dean & Bean, and they taught us classes. They came around to help us the whole weekend. So it was like the best place to learn and really understand what you're doing. And I think we all kind of felt like winners at the end of the weekend. I didn't even get to stay for the whole weekend. I had to leave Saturday night, so I kind of missed the last day, but I accomplished so much and felt like I learned a lot over those 2 days. So Friday, it began like early Friday morning, and I just drove up really early that morning because Kansas City is just a couple hours away from Des Moines, so that was really nice. It was convenient for me to jump over there. So Friday morning started with a sock crank along. So we all made the simple sock pattern from Dean & Bean together at the same time, and they didn't move on to the next step till we were all there. So it was like nobody was left behind, nobody was left out, nobody was struggling. They came around till we were all ready, and then we went to the next step together. And so we really learned a lot of tips and tricks along the way. There's a lot of troubleshooting that they helped us figure out individually. They were so patient, and I know it takes a lot of energy to teach, and help all the time. So I just really appreciate them, and they did such a good job, and it was such a great event. And then there was the second day, Saturday, was a lot of class demonstrations. So there was like a classroom type thing and then another cranking room. So if you didn't want to go to the classes, you could still crank on your own socks, or you could take a break and go watch the class. We had great food, met new friends, found some old familiar faces. There was a few of us from West Des Moines. I didn't even know that they were going to be there, which was really fun. We all ended up sitting in a row, and but met lots of other new people too. So it was really fun. But so I managed to make, and you're not gonna think this is a big deal, but this is a big deal. I finished 2 whole pairs of socks over the course of Friday and Saturday. And I left Saturday, so 2 days. But now I feel confident that I can do this on my own. There's gonna be some little things I run into, but now I feel like I know what to do if I hit some snags, literally. And Dean & Bean has amazing how-to videos, fixing mistakes. They have everything on their YouTube channel. So now that we've gone through this together over the weekend, I really feel confident. And my socks, so I made a pair of socks for Lotus and a pair of socks for Bowie, just because I felt like that would be nice. And they're like not totally perfect, but they're pretty perfect for first pairs. I didn't line up the stripes or anything. I just got like some multicolored yarn and some striped Felici from Picks. And I'm not worried about that. I don't care if they match right now. I just was happy to get socks done that had heels and toes. And the coolest thing about these knitting machines, Dean & Bean, I'm just gonna plug them because I'm a big fan. Sorry. The coolest thing is you knit the cuff, the heel, the toe, every part of this sock. Look how perfect, look how nice. Like, it's amazing. Every part of it is on the machine except you just Kitchener the toe at the end. but the toe is already made. Like it comes off the machine, ready to go. You take off some waste yarn here, you take off some waste yarn here, and you Kitchener this closed. And that's it, and you have a finished sock. Like, it's still amazing to me. So this is my first pair. I've got this cute pair that fit, and these fit too. If they fit both kids, I a little bit guessed because it's kind of tricky at first just to figure out your gauge and everything, just like hand knitting. But here's the first pair for Lotus, and they're so cute. And that's like the little hung hem, they call it. And then these are Bowie's. And this is Felici Knit Picks. I'm sure you're familiar with the striped. These are they were rumpled up in his room to smooth them out. But that is like one of the knit picks. I have a lot of this yarn in my stash because I've collected it over the years because I love how it knits up. It's really soft and nice. And then the stripes are such fun colors. But here's the other one, and look how nice. Look at the heel. Like, look how beautiful that comes out on the machine. I don't close up any holes. I didn't do anything to these heels. They come off the machine that way, which is just amazing to me. Can you believe? Okay, so those are my weekend accomplishments. And then I thought I would take you over to my couch over here and show you kind of what I packed for the crank-in, just in case you're interested, because it is kind of a lot. You need a lot of little supplies for this, but how fun to crank out some socks on a weekend. Like, I couldn't have hand knit 2 pairs of socks on the weekend. I still love hand knitting socks, don't get me wrong. There's nothing that will make me stop from hand knitting anything, but it is fun to kind of cruise through some of my stash sock yarn and make socks for family and gifts and friends and myself, and just like, it's just really fun and exciting. Okay, let's go to the couch and see what I packed. Okay, over here you will see, this is how I transport my machine. I bought this tub, or whatever you call it, tote, at Joann Fabrics, and it's exactly the right size. It's very sturdy and well made. It has like the nice clamps and everything on for the lid, and it exactly fits my machine perfectly because I didn't want it to bounce around. You really don't want this to get bumped in any way. And so I keep a little bubble wrap. It's down there right now, but I usually wrap the machine in bubble wrap. And then once it's wrapped, I include these pieces, which are the clamps and the mast. And I kind of lay them on top over on this side with the bubble wrap. And then that's all that goes in this tote, just the machine. And I've seen some people actually pad it with a little bit of yarn around the sides for some cushion, and that's not a bad idea either. But I love this tote, and I can maybe link it below in case anybody else is looking for the right size, because it is kind of tricky to find the right size tote. There's a lot of totes on Amazon that were like too narrow, and I don't know. This one, I got lucky at Joann. So on to the rest of the stuff. I brought a lot of yarn because Dean & Bean has like a nice winder. Normally I would wind these cones using a drill like this and an attachment like this, which is totally fine because you have to wind your yarn onto these cardboard cones so it's ready to use when you are knitting with the machine. And yeah, Dean & Bean had this beautiful winder that makes these beautiful, really even spun cones, so I took advantage and wound a bunch of yarn while I was there. But normally at home, I would just use my drill with this, and you stick the cone right on this, and then you wind it by hand. I brought a handy dandy zipper pouch, my little lanyard, for all my little small tools and pens and scissors and all that kind of stuff, darning needle, little things. That's my MDK, Modern Daily Knitting, beautiful rose gold pouch from my friends at MDK. I brought some setup bonnets. These are how you cast on for the different cylinders, and you need those to start any project, so I brought those. Brought the drill and didn't need it. This is the little heel tool to pull up your needles when you do a heel or a toe. Scissors and my little tools. And then I got this tool. Is it Addy? Yeah, my Addy tool. Someone at the last crank-in told me this is a really good one, and I really do like the ends of it. It's really helpful for picking up stitches and fixing mistakes. Dean and Bean gifted us this lift lower crank reminder thing. You just set it on top of your machine. And when you're doing heels and toes, it's really hard sometimes when you're new to remember where you're at, if you're lifting or lowering. So it's these two that I use the most, and it was just such a lifesaver this time, and now I will never not use this, because while you're cranking, it's confusing on the heels and toes. If you stop for a second, it's hard to remember what you're doing. So this helps you remember. These are my soft weights. I needed those. My little clamp that goes around the bottom where my weight would be. This is called the Oklahoma tool, or that's what we ended up calling it over the weekend. And it just is inserted into, it's underneath there to check and make sure there's a good amount of distance. It's just kind of a nice little, they say it's the shape of Oklahoma, so we just call it that. A ruler. This is the nice light that they give you. Clamps right on top. Oh, it's still working. But it has a cord so you can plug it in too, but you need some light so you can see what you're doing. Super important, and it clamps to the mast. And now I'm trying to find the light switch to turn it off. I apparently hit the button. Oh, there it is. There, different brightnesses. Wonderful. I brought some waste yarn, which I really need to wind this onto a cone, because I would just keep this in my lap, and that's not ideal. And then it was bouncing around, and I think it was causing some drop stitches, which in your waste yarn doesn't matter a ton, but when I was trying to take the sock off for the toe, this was causing me problems. So I think I need to wind it onto a cone, and then maybe it will work better. I brought my handy dandy Trapper Keeper. Do you guys have a Trapper Keeper? Us 80s kids, this is like the life. And when they brought Trapper Keepers back, I got so excited with these laser designs, like the original 80s look. And I bought these for my kids, and they were not excited about them. They didn't want to take them to school. And then, you know, they have those like specific supply lists that apparently didn't include a Trapper Keeper. So they were like, nah. So I kept the Trapper Keepers and I use them for knitting stuff. And like, we got handouts and patterns over the weekend, so I put them in here. Notebook for all my notes. I took a lot of notes because they were explaining what we were doing. And then we've got the lubricants. There's two different kinds that go with this machine. There's certain kinds you don't want to use on a 3D printed machine, but these are both good and safe, so we all have that. I brought my Java sock. Do you guys know what this is? This will keep your coffee hot or cold. Like, it's really good for cold brew or a cold cup of coffee. It just is a nice insulated little coffee sock. Dean and Bean made us these cute little Crankin 2023 Christmas ornaments. Kind of adorable. They handed those out when we got there. I brought an extra cylinder in case I did a different size. And then I bought another cylinder in a smaller size too, just in case. It's kind of nice to have a few options. Like Bowie has a narrower foot, he's kind of small. This is the bigger one, which would be good for like a men's sock, like for Bo. And then before I left, I also made my family stand on a piece of cardboard, and I traced everybody's foot, because when you make socks in the machine, you still have to check your gauge and figure out how many rows you're gonna need for the foot and the leg. And so you sometimes have to measure, and so I had those cut out just in case I needed that. These are my heel forks. These are weights. And they're making a heel or toe. And then a little Ziploc of dryer sheets in case the needles get staticky. Sometimes they come up by themselves if they're staticky or if the room is dry. So you have dryer sheets. And that's kind of what I packed, I guess. Kind of fun. So that was my little rundown of what I brought to the Crankin and a little bit about the Crankin. And now I'm going to show you the video footage of the Crankin.
it is hard for humans to learn new things, right? And we all don't really like it that much when we don't know something. And so it'd be easy to get really frustrated. But I am hoping that instead you could just give yourself permission to have beginner's mind today, right? And to show up and to not be good at it, or to not be good at the other new skills you're trying this weekend after watching the demonstrations, that it's perfectly fine. It's like learning any new skill. It takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of perseverance, a little bit of detective work if something doesn't go well. We're going to show you lots of repair techniques, which you will certainly need, troubleshooting techniques to keep things from going wrong. But imagine if you've never done any hand knitting before, and today were your first day to pick up hand knitting needles. You would not expect to finish a sock today, right? Right. So today we actually are going to get you through a sock today, but that's the learning curve we are taking you through if you are new to this craft. But you've never done anything, you're expecting to make a sock. So maybe just, a little grace for yourself if it takes just a little minute to figure out how to do some of the steps. Okay, is that a deal?
The Dean and Bean team also had to go through the same curve. I know it took me months of my mom sitting right next to me explaining how to make a sock. So we're all on the same page with you.
joining me on my knitting machine crankin' adventures. I hope you had fun tagging along with me to Kansas City. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everybody who has taken the time to leave a comment or watch a video. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Give me a little thumbs up or follow me for notifications when I have my next video. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.